talking about, again, like the industry changes, I think both of you having how many owners you said, and then unfortunately April.
The last 3 publications, they just don't exist anymore. So
I hate bringing that little stat up. I'm sorry, but I think you both can talk to these changes because I know a lot of the folks in these audience, they've worked for some publications that don't exist anymore, or things went sideways, or they stopped being able to pay people. Like there's so many horror stories out there. And
save your clips just in case. Right?
So,
everyone in here is saving their clips, right?
Okay.
To be clear, you mean so they don't delete them from the internet forever?
Yeah, because you don't know where they're going.
Yeah. PDF everything. So yeah, talk to you guys about the industry changes and basically how you think that this group of folks can guard themselves for, we're kind of in the wild, wild west in a lot of ways.
I mean, you should be, let's say that you've got a nice kind of steady thing going with an editor. Doesn't matter, make sure that you're constantly looking at other editors. Like you're in an open relationship because you don't know what is going to happen in the future. And that's something that, thank God, it helped me out quite a bit of just making sure that I, knew other people to turn to when every publication I left. Maybe it was me.
No.
Like you said, after some point in time, you start thinking, is it me? Am I the reason they're all
You didn't hire
closing?
those people to buy the LA Weekly,
That's
I'm
true.
pretty sure.
That's true.
Sorry, we can cut that out. Sorry.
I mean, like you should always be thinking about the next rung anyway, right? I mean, that should be your thing. Like, what's the next rung? Who can you work with? Don't be too precious about it, right? I mean, it's great to cultivate those relationships with an editor where you go to them first, but let's say you only get like $100 for something, like you get the chance to get, $300 for something with a new editor, then, hedge your bets. Figure out where you can go. You have to kind of protect yourself in this industry because no one's going to protect you. Like the editors are going to do the best that they can, but they too are a dying species. So
they also have a different agenda.
Yeah,
they're not your buddies or your professors or whatever. They're serving the publication.
Yes, exactly.
So Eric, you can maybe talk about this part about it too. Like there's an economic difference than it was 5 years ago and definitely 10 years ago. And so there's this thing that I think is kind of the elephant in the room, and I think everyone has their own opinions about it, but it's about pay. And there's some publications out there that's not part of their business model. I don't know who they are, but that's their thing. And I think there's a point where we have to educate new writers, like, yes, maybe something like a Sundance where you're going to go anyway. This is your investment. That's a different situation. But how do you make that conversation about payment and really kind of making sure that you're getting paid your worth?
So I married an accountant. Which made a big difference. Save all your receipts. It's a tricky business model if you're going to go that route. I think you should think as expansively as possible about how much this is a job for you in the sense that it is paying your bills, because I know some terrific film critics who do other things. Some of them are major influencers in the film community as distributors or programmers or even publicists who also write about movies. And some of them do other things as day jobs so that they can support their families, but they always go to film festivals and get accredited and have been doing that for years and years. And those are all viable things, and you are not failing doing this work if you find an alternate income. Having said that, you can create a business model doing this sort of work. When I started, I just kind of was pretty clear up front that I wasn't going to work for free, and I was very aggressive about finding assignments in many different places. Print magazines paid better than little online rags, so I chased those pretty aggressively, especially consumer-facing ones, meaning they weren't film-specific. So I'd approach a fashion mag about doing an interview, and as you could probably tell, fashion is not necessarily my beat per se, but I could still, get to an editor who wanted to get this interview with this particular person because I happened to be in the right place at the right time, or just because I was making myself available. So that was really important. I will say that it has gotten harder to find as many paying gigs as perhaps there were just about a decade ago. And so there is a degree of flexibility that could be valuable. And I don't want to say that you should necessarily seek unpaid work, but if the opportunity for unpaid work comes along that may help raise your profile while you are developing that profile, it's something that you have to consider very delicately. There was a panel that I went to once at South by Southwest a number of years ago where there was a writer on there who said, I think you should write for free for 8 years. And then after 8 years, once you got that far, then you could start getting your paid gigs. And I was like, I don't know about that one. But if there are unpaid, think about the publications. There are publications out there that you probably read that you have a lot of respect for that pay next to nothing or pay nothing. But if you have respect for them, it's quite possible somebody else does too. And if you can get a byline in them, if they're willing to accredit you, if that gets you through the door, think about that as a starting point and how you might take the next step beyond that. Just don't necessarily commit to that full time unless you're willing to figure out another way to keep the lights on.